Why are you here? Well, that question can be answered in lots of ways, but I guess two main ways. Um, because I don't want this video to be seen as clickbait, or the title to be seen as clickbait, I'm going to answer the question that maybe the big ontological question, the question of existence question, because it's an easy question. Why are you here? You, I, whoever, why are you here? That's an easy question to answer. Why are you here? Well, you're here because you're here. That's the answer. You're here because you're here. You're here to be here. Being here is the why. It's sort of like, if you ever watched the movie, The Ten Commandments, the old Charlton Heston movie, it's a scene that's actually taken from the Bible. It's taken from the Old Testament. It's a scene where Moses meets God on the mountaintop. This is before he gets the Ten Commandments, and it's a burning bush. This is in the Old Testament, and in truth, I thought that scene was really good because what it shows, and not just the movie, but in the Old Testament, it illustrates that the way people of that spiritual system viewed God, which was as a power, as formless, it's not an image, not a physical form. But anyway, Moses asks God, well, the people, when I go back to the camp, people are going to ask me who you are, what's your name. Now, they did a good job in the movie, of course, but if you look at the actual text of the Old Testament, he says, he, capital H, God says to Moses, he says his name, which is what Moses thought was a name. He says YWH. Now, I learned this in theology class in university. We learned this as well. We studied this in theology class, which was that God's name was YWH. And in those ancient Semitic languages, when they wrote the language, they didn't put vowels in, but it was understood by the speakers of the language what the vowel sounds would be. But coming down to us, we put the vowels A and E in there to make the sound, which would be something like Yahweh. Now, you say, oh, what, is Yahweh a name? No, it's not. It's not really a name, because just like in the movie Ten Commandments, the voice of God comes back and he says, they say, well, what should I tell them your name is? What should they call you? And God says, I am. And that's what Yahweh means. It means I am. So when asked the name of God, there is no name. I am. It's that simple. So in a similar way, to say, why are you here? Well, I could say there's no why, but then that would seem like you're skirting around the question. But the why, or the reason, is to be here. It's sort of like asking, or say, anything that you do that's physical, like with your body, say, for example, and you say like running or say the things that seem like they have no purpose, like say being able to lift heavy weights, say on the bench press or something. Now, do you have chest muscles to be able to lift heavy weights and bench press? No, that's not why you have them. It's just that your muscles in your body are for your survival. That's all. They're just for survival. How you use them, what you do with them, is up to you as an individual, but the existence of them are just for survival. And being here is, when I say here, of course I mean on Earth, on this planet, is in itself a reason. You're here because you're here. We're here because we're here. That's as simple as I can really make it, I think. But you can go deeper into deeper explanations of that. You can make arguments about spiritual arguments or spiritual assertions. You could say, well, to experience this thing, but no. In the base of it, just being here is the reason. So you're here because you are here. So, but that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about the question, why are you here? Because, or I could write or make another question, what are you doing here? Which is basically the same thing. What are you doing here, or why are you here? And I thought about this question recently because I remember being asked this question specifically by other people, maybe at least 3 or 4 times in my life, and I think it's a really funny question. So the first time I remember being asked this question was when I was waiting tables and in a restaurant when I was in high school. I think I was about 18 at the time, and I think I just about graduated, or I just graduated from high school. And I went to a pretty good school, and a lot of people knew me in the restaurant. A lot of the customers knew me. And I remember one person came in, and they asked me, because they knew who I was, or knew me through other people, and they were like, well, what are you doing here? As if to say that I shouldn't be working in this restaurant, and as if I was somehow above it, which of course I wasn't. But I remember thinking to myself, after this person said this to me, this place, because of this job, I'm able to provide for myself and my expenses on my own without needing much help from anybody. And it was just a godsend, that job. A few years later, while I was in university, a friend of mine, a former classmate, and a former high school classmate, came into this restaurant where I worked and basically asked the same thing. But she said, what are you still doing here? A different person saying, what are you still doing here? And I just brushed it off, kind of thing. But once again, I thought in my head, because this place is the reason why I can afford my existence as a university student, pay for my own apartment, pay for my utilities, pay for my own food, my clothing, my books. I mean, because of this job as a waiter. And I kept working in that place for about 5 years, from high school through university. Now, so that was that case. And I remember, when's the next time this happened to me? It's happened to me a few times, but one time I was at a festival, in a community festival, and at that time I think I had been living in that community, same community I live in now. I've been living in that community for already 14 years or something like that. I had kids in the local schools and things like that. But I was at a festival, and I used to I worked, volunteer worked. I used to do volunteer work. I still do it. Can't do it now so much because of COVID-19, but I was helping set up the festival booths and things like that. It's part of that work. But anyway, there was a guy there, older Japanese looking guy, I guess you could say. And I never met him, never seen him. I saw the people he was with. They were neighbors, acquaintances of mine from the community. I knew them, knew their kids. But he saw me, and I guess just judging him by my appearance, he figured I wasn't a local, or I wasn't native-born Japanese, whatever you want to say. And he just blurted out, like in a pretty loud voice, but for me to hear in English, "What are you doing here?" And I said one word: living. And I said it as loud as he said his question. I said that as loud as he had said it. And he was with his son, but I found out later it was his son. His son just let out like a one burst laugh, because he just thought my reaction was I guess right on the money. And I saw it was about 18, 19, 20, like something like that. And I think I was in my 30s at the time, mid-30s. But anyway, we got to talking later, and I became friends with that guy, and we actually exchanged emails. And it turns out that he was just shocked because he had not been back to Japan. He was living in the United States. He hadn't been back to Japan for like almost 30 years. So he was a local person from Okayama who had moved to the United States and set up a whole life business for himself. And he hadn't been back to visit his family or anything for almost 30 years. And, and he knows exactly what it's like to be an immigrant in the United States. And, he just couldn't wrap his head around the fact that, like, I was just completely just living normally, and he was a visitor in my community, but I think he got the idea, and his son was interested in coming to Japan and maybe coming back again, but he is completely discouraging it because he's from a generation where people were just coming out of people had to work really, really hard to build Japan up after and recover from World War II and things. But anyway, but because I don't go about lecturing people, even when I take offense at things people say to me, or the way people may talk to me. But I do think about it, even if I don't answer back right away. I don't like to attack people. But I thought what all those people, the three stories I mentioned, one back when I was in high school and university, and then the one when I was in my mid-30s, when you see people and you have assumptions, or you're judging a situation you see someone in, it's a big mistake to believe that they are not totally engaged. The person you're judging is not totally engaged in what they're doing. I like to paraphrase a poem by Deng Dao, who wrote 365 Meditations, and it goes something like this. The tiger sits under a tree as the deer passes by. Now, what this is talking about, or is trying to teach in a way, is that engagement. It means that just because the person, or in this case the tiger, didn't attack that deer, doesn't mean that the tiger didn't completely make every calculation about whether it was prudent to attack or not. you know, in nature, and we're part of nature, the best way to go about anything is to completely engage yourself in what's the situation at hand. And the tiger decides not to attack the deer for whatever reason. But a decision was made. And just like when I was in high school and university, I decided to work hard to stay in that restaurant as long as I could, for as long as it suited me. And just like when I was in my community, there's a reason I'm in the community. It's not just because I just happen to be there. It's all calculated. It's all based on my decision for my own situation at the time. So for that question, why are you here? You know the answer. You know the answer. All right. Thank you for listening and watching.